Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Digital Diary, Adventures of a Computerized Quilter. And today we have Georgia, and we have Christine and Paige, and I'm DeAnn. And we're going to talk about some of the accessories that we can get to add to our table or our Statler or our Elevate. So let's look at some of those things and talk about them. Let me go here to screen share and we'll begin. Okay, the first one is the light bar. Everybody have a light bar?
I do.
I do.
Love it.
I have a light bar. It's much older than that one. And light is so important. In my new studio, I paid a ton of money to get new lights. You can see them up there in the ceiling. I think this is something that is good, not just for your quilting, but for your eyes. You have to protect your body and your eyes.
And the older I got, the older I get, the more I value that lighting. It makes a big difference.
Well, I know living in the Pacific Northwest that in the wintertime, I need a whole lot of extra light. And the room that I have it in, that's what I need it for because I don't have a lot of natural light in the wintertime. Oh, this is a new one. The professional bobbin winder. Okay, Jordan, you got to tell us about it because I haven't yet and I want one.
Well, you know, at first, it's like I have a perfectly good bobbin winder. Why do I want to get a new one? But honestly, game changer. It is amazing. It has a smaller footprint. It doesn't take up as much room on my counter, which I like. It's quieter, which I like. Oh, yeah, because the old one was a little noisier. And the nice thing, too, is this. The best thing is you get it started, and then you go off and do something else because not only does it stop, old bobbin winder would stop winding, it would pop off, and stop winding, but the machine was still going and you could hear that noise in the background. Well, not true on this one. When it's done winding the bobbin, it stops, the whole machine stops. So you truly can, without worrying, go off and do something else. And every bobbin from the very first bobbin has been perfect, absolutely perfect. And we all know a perfect bobbin gives us a perfect stitch, or at least most of the time. So it makes a huge difference for us.
This is something that is definitely on my wish list. We have a lot of people trying to wind a bobbin, sometimes at the same time. And I love the fact that it's got a smaller footprint. I actually hadn't thought about that, but that's going to make a difference to me because I'm going to have to set up a second station for bobbins, and this is perfect. Then we'll fight over this one. I just know it.
They will. They absolutely will.
Okay, next up, the vivid light system. This isn't a really good picture, but I love my lighting system because it goes under the arm of the machine and gives light to that whole area.
Yeah.
I love this thing. I do a lot of custom myself. And so I put it on one of the machines that I use all the time. And especially towards the end of the evening when it's dark, I've got big windows. And so when it's dark outside, it gets darker inside. This has really made a difference with the strain on my eyes at the end of the day. So I have added it on another machine. Hopefully they'll all get it someday, but for custom work and the ability to see those colors and the stitches exactly, I love this. This is a must-have.
I agree. It's wonderful. And it is a black light too. A lot of times people don't realize that, but you can go into black light, which can be helpful for, that white on white stitching.
We've got next. Oh, hydraulics. This allows people of different heights to be able to use it or use it differently, whether you're doing hand-guided or you're doing computerized. And how many of you have it? I have it.
It's on my
wish list. I should have went for it, and I just didn't put it as my priority, and I kick myself every day. I want to go back and get it.
this is totally a must-have. It changes, even an inch will change your posture and help when you're sitting there doing intricate stuff. And as you know, I have different people, so different heights, but I have a cutting table on the back of the machine and I change the height to cut. So we have a veritable height cutting table because of the hydraulics. It's a must-have.
Yeah, I agree. These are relatively new, the soft touch switches. They're probably something that the computerized users use them less often, but they're so nice. They're barely touch them and they work and they last and last and last.
Well, one of the things that I've heard about these, because I don't use my switches, is that they're very easy to replace. I do have one machine that those switches are soldered in. And once you replace them, then it's a snap on, snap off. And even as a computerized quilter, at some point, you're going to have to replace those switches.
Right. Even if you don't use them much, they will eventually go out. And that's my plan. When mine go out, it'll be time to get these.
Oh, quilt clips. Love those quilt clips. Got them like right after they came out.
Yeah. Putting something back on.
I love mine. And it's not only can I use them to float quilt tops, but I also put them on when I'm doing a full custom job. Because then if I brush up or roll up right next to that belly bar, and if I have to lean over it to get something perfect in my custom work, I'm not adjusting the quilt just by leaning on it or touching it. I can actually lean up against that belly bar a little bit because that quilt clip is kind of protecting the quilt from me running up against it.
Do I see them on your machine behind you right now?
They are back there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I use them to reload. To fix something. It's so quick, very quick and easy.
And talking about reloading, the Zippered Leaders.
Yeah, those are wonderful. Absolutely. I keep a practice cloth on Zippered Leaders all the time. So if I'm in the middle of something, having issues, I can just zip it off and zip the practice cloth on. That has saved me lots of time.
Yeah, it goes back on the machine and you can go through it one time and so everything's stabilized, and especially on custom that's going to take a long time. I can take that custom off, run some edge to edges, put that custom back on, and I'm within 1/8 of an inch of where it came off on that zipper.
Yep, one relocate later and you're good to go.
Yep.
And sometimes you just need that break from custom just to do something a little bit easier for a couple of days, just to give you a break. Or maybe you have somebody you need to take care of with something, very quickly. But I can't even imagine not having Zippered Leaders.
Me either.
Me either. Okay, here's something that a lot of computerized users don't fully utilize. And that is the ruler base plate. I like it. And I know, Christine, you use it a lot and you teach it in your classes.
I do. So I use my ruler base plate when I'm doing all of my custom quilting, but especially all of my ditch work. And it's because it gives you a much wider space to stabilize that quilt. And if I need to do small little adjustments instead of like big surfing, I can do like tiny little micro surfing to get each of those stitches right where they need to be.
Yeah, I don't think you need to do big surfing if you put your pattern where you wanted it. So it is the smaller micro adjustments.
I can adjust by like half a stitch or less.
Christine, do you ever use rulers? Are you all just computer?
I own several.
I can say that.
not very good with them. Let's put it that way.
I have a lot of rulers and I do like them, and I have the circle sets, and especially on a circle or a rounded edge, that's where those things come in real handy.
I think it's part of the art to be able to learn how to use a lot of different things and not just rely solely on the computer. I think it's fun every once in a while to use them.
The big thing I also got my ruler base for was to do all that hand guided, because I didn't realize at the time, but a lot of hand guiders will take the take-up bar down so that it kind of drags on the thread of their machine. So it gives a little bit of tension on their machine. So they're, especially with some of our computerized machines that are big and giant and heavy, it gives a little bit of resistance, so you're not putting the full weight of the machine on it. Well, what I found with the ruler base is I can put a hand down next to where I'm quilting and kind of put a little tension right on that ruler base. And it kind of helps me guide that machine around when I'm doing free motion as well.
A little bit more control.
Yep. I've never tried that. The one thing I have done is I've used it as a pressing board.
I can see that.
Don't try using the plastic acrylic one as a pressing board.
No, not the it was not a plastic one.
Well, and I've used it. Have you ever used the silicone hammer to kind of press down a seam so you can zap it with a little bit of steam and then pound on it with that silicone so that your hopping foot can go over that intersection.
Yeah, really I do that on the bar of the machine, not on the. I would hate for that thing to get cockeyed. Twing.
Yeah. There's lots of uses for it. But then there's the TOWA gauge.
Must have every bobbin.
It is.
When I first started, I was told the old drop method, and it was very frustrating. And generally the person who taught me that was somebody who'd been doing it for 10 years. So yeah, of course. But when you're new, you don't know how it's supposed to feel. And I adapted to the TOWA gauge almost at the very, very beginning. And I'm a firm believer, and especially when you're new and getting started and you don't know exactly how it should feel.
Well, and the big thing with every bobbin is you're checking for lint or damage or anything, even to the bobbin case, not just the bobbin itself.
Exactly. And that's the part that a lot of people don't realize. They're looking just at the tension, but there's always that second element of, if that needle is going up and down, something's wrong, and you need to find out what it is, because it's going to cause stitch problems.
Well, the consistency is nice. You can put different weights of thread and change it so that you're still I run right at 200. And depending on the thread, I can still get that tension to 200.
Exactly. I think we have to say, though, that bobbin is in it incorrectly, just so it goes.
It is.
No, it is in wrong, but it's not hard to use at all. And I'm like Paige. I like the consistency. That's what's important.
So
yeah, that little tab goes. Yeah, tell us, DeAnn.
The little tab should go right up here. There's a little spot for it. There's a high point on either side and a low area, and that's where this needs to be right on in there.
And you'll hear a click.
Yep. These are micro handles, and I use them occasionally, not very often, but because they have those little knobs right here, I can loosen those and move these handles up, back around, and it can stay on my machine all the time. And then I can just drop them down and use them when I'm doing micro stippling or something. How many of you all use them?
I don't really.
I use them all the time when I'm doing handwork, and I use them in conjunction with my ruler base to give me an awful lot of control.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do think the more places you can have physical contact with your machine, the better. And I have found that the closer to the needle that you position your hands, wherever that is, you're going to have more control. And this allows you to bring your hands down close to the needle and to the quilt at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is one of the times that I use my hydraulics and actually raise that table up so that I'm looking right on in there. So,
well, and I think that's a big thing. Like computerized quilters, typically we keep our tables a little bit lower because visibility and reach is more important than that ergonomic. We're not sitting there holding the handles for hours.
Right.
Yeah, we want to see down into the hopping foot, not across it.
Exactly.
And swivel casters.
Oh,
must have.
Absolutely. Flexibility of being able to get that machine out of the way, even if it's just for something simple like cleaning under it, or, you know, I store things under mine, and sometimes it's easier to move the machine than drag stuff out.
We'll rearrange the studio every now and then for classes or special events. And it is so nice to move that table one person. Just take those brakes off and that table will move.
Yep.
Yeah. And those machines and tables are really heavy, and it just moves so easily with these casters.
Yeah.
Well, I remember on the tour, those tables would wheel in and out and even down the streets of Nashville.
And Atlanta.
Yep. I put in a second picture. This is actually Christine's machine because she has it shown much better than the one that we could see on the website, and how you could use this. This is a horizontal spool holder, and it allows us to be able to use almost any thread on our machines. Our machines are really not as picky as some other brands might be. We can run even more than one thread at a time through ours. How many of you have utilized those?
I've done up to 3 threads.
Yeah, I've done 3 threads. What I have used that spool holder for is sometimes I'll have like a really shiny metallic or razzly dazzly thread, and I can piggyback it onto another thread. Right. And I get a little bit more strength. And so that spool holder is nice to have.
Yeah, it really helps with breakage on some of those fussy metallics.
Well, and sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I need a specific color thread and I can't find it in a big giant cone. So having that ability to put a smaller one on there works a whole lot better for me.
Yeah.
I've used it when I have a customer bring in a quilt that is heavily machine embroidered, and it's easier for me to quilt over that embroidery with her embroidery thread. And so that I can use it like that. And then it shows up lovely on the back, and you don't even see the quilting on the front because that would take away from her embroidery.
Nice idea.
And if you have an extra bobbin's worth and you're running low on thread, you can put it up there if you need
to. Done that
too. We can. Okay. Here is one of the extra things that we can get. It's not one of the big things, but I use it all the time. And way down here, and this is a needle magnet. And that helps us to put our needle in at the angle that we want it to. It's easier to see than putting a little pin in the eye.
I always worry about damaging the eye a little bit by putting a pin in. So to me, the needle magnet is much safer and not as likely to damage the eye of the needle.
Yeah, we have one of these on, actually 2 of these on each machine, because I put 2 of them and I can really see the angle when there's one on top of, right after the other. And because it's a magnet, it just attaches to one of the oil spouts right on the top of the machine in the front, and that's where it lives.
Yeah.
I never have to look for it.
Yeah, you don't have to hunt for it. It stays right there.
Mm-hmm. So these are some of the things that we can get as accessories for our machines. Check with your dealer, your local dealer. And if you don't know how to find your dealer, haven't met him or her yet, the easiest way is to go on the Gamble website, gamble.com, and find your dealer. Well, thank you all for joining us for another episode of Digital Diary, Adventures of a Computerized Quilter. And come back and see us again on our next episode. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
So long.